I met Fabian on a rainy Tuesday afternoon at a bookstore cafe. I just spilled my latte all over my laptop keyboard. And there he was, tall, dark-haired, with this crooked smile that made my disaster seem less catastrophic. He offered me napkins and his own laptop to finish my work presentation. By the time the rain stopped, we'd exchanged numbers and planned our first date. Those early months felt like living inside a romantic movie. Fabian remembered everything. My favorite flowers were peonies, not roses. He'd text me good morning messages with little poems he'd written. He'd show up at my office with lunch on days I forgot to eat. My friends called him the unicorn because men like him supposedly didn't exist. My parents adored him instantly. Dad, who usually took months to warm up to anyone, was inviting Fabian to his golf club by week 3. Mom started setting an extra place at Sunday dinner without asking. "You found a keeper," she'd whisper while Fabian helped Dad with the dishes. I thought I had. 6 months in, Fabian's lease was up. We were practically living together anyway. He had a drawer at my place. I had a toothbrush at his. Moving in together felt natural, inevitable even. Dad helped us move his boxes. Mom brought over a houseplant for good luck. Everything was falling perfectly into place. But perfect things have a way of revealing their cracks under pressure. The first one appeared 3 weeks after he moved in. Fabian had been between jobs when we met, a temporary situation, he'd assured me. Creative consulting work was unpredictable. But now the weeks were turning to months. And his job search seemed to consist mainly of scrolling LinkedIn from our couch. "I'm being selective," he'd say when I gently asked about interviews. "I don't want to just take anything. I want something worthy of us, of our future." It sounded romantic when he said it like that. Holding my hand across the dinner table I'd just finished setting after my own 10-hour workday. The money conversation started subtly. Fabian would forget his wallet when we went out, not every time, just enough that I started automatically reaching for my card. He'd promised to Venmo me later, but somehow never quite got around to it. When I mentioned it, he'd look hurt. "I thought we were building something together. I didn't know you were keeping score." I felt petty bringing it up. After all, relationships weren't supposed to be transactional, right? My parents had raised me to be generous, to share what I had, and I had plenty. My marketing director salary was comfortable, and yes, my parents had money. Dad's tech company had done well, very well. But that was their money, not mine, a distinction that seemed to blur in Fabian's mind. "Your dad mentioned his boat yesterday," Fabian would say casually. "Maybe we could take it out this weekend?" Or, "Your mom said they're thinking of selling the beach house. We should visit it one last time before they do." These comments felt innocent enough, but they started adding up like coins in a jar, making a sound I couldn't quite ignore. The real shift happened at his company holiday party, except it wasn't his company, it was mine, and he was my +1. After 3 whiskeys, Fabian got chatty with my boss. "Isla's basically my sugar mama," he laughed, slapping my boss's shoulder. "Her daddy's loaded, so I'm set for life, right?" My boss's uncomfortable laugh echoed in my ears for days. "It was just a joke," Fabian insisted in the Uber home. "You know I don't care about that stuff. I love you for you." He held my hand, kissed my temple, and I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Because if I didn't, what did that say about the last year of my life? But the comments kept coming, to our friends, to strangers at parties, even to the barista at our local coffee shop. "Must be nice," he'd say about my apartment, the one I'd been renting for 3 years before I met him. "Daddy's princess has it made." Always with a smile, always with a laugh, always with just enough affection that calling him out felt like overreacting. I started noticing other things too. Fabian would be on his phone constantly, but would flip it face down when I walked by. He'd take calls in the bathroom with the door locked. When packages arrived, he'd intercept them before I could see what they were. "Just some stuff for the apartment," he'd say. Though I never saw any of this stuff materialize. My best friend Sarah was the first to say something. "He gives me weird vibes," she admitted over wine one night when Fabian was supposedly at a networking event. "Like he's performing the role of perfect boyfriend rather than actually being one." I defended him, of course. Sarah didn't see the sweet texts, the forehead kisses, the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Except I started wondering what that look really meant. Was it love or calculation? When he rubbed my feet after a long day, was it affection or investment? These thoughts made me feel crazy, ungrateful. Here was a man who loved me, who my parents loved, who fit so seamlessly into my life. Why was I looking for problems? The answer came during a dinner at his parents' house. They lived 2 hours away, and we didn't visit often. His mother, Lorraine, was one of those women who smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. His father, Dennis, spent most of dinner talking about his glory days as a regional sales manager. His sister, Chloe, kept making passive-aggressive comments about must be nice to afford organic groceries. I excused myself to use the bathroom, but I'd left my phone recording in my purse at the table. I'd been trying to catch the recipe Lorraine was describing. She'd been vague about ingredients, and I wanted to surprise Fabian by making it. What I caught instead changed everything. "How much longer are you planning to keep this up?" Lorraine's voice, no longer honeyed for my benefit. "As long as it takes," Fabian replied. "Her dad's practically adopted me. I figure another year, maybe 2. Get some connections through him. Maybe some startup capital. Then I can reassess. She's pretty enough, Dennis added, like he was evaluating a used car. Bit boring, but that makes her easier to manage, right? Fabian laughed. The same laugh that usually made my heart flutter now made my stomach turn. She's convenient. Her dad's money keeps me comfortable while I figure out my next move. The sex is decent. She doesn't ask too many questions. And her parents treat me like the son they never had. It's actually pretty perfect. Just don't get her pregnant, Chloe chimed in. Although, child support from that family wouldn't be the worst thing. God, no, Fabian said quickly. I'm not trying to be tied to her forever. Just long enough to get what I need. Maybe I'll meet someone I actually want to be with at one of her dad's country club events. Kill two birds with one stone. I stood frozen in the hallway, my hand on the bathroom door. Every word was a knife, but I couldn't stop listening. I needed to hear it all, to have proof that this wasn't some nightmare I'd wake up from. She seems pretty smitten, Lorraine observed. You don't think she'll cause problems when you leave? Isla? Fabian snorted. She's too nice to cause problems. She'll probably blame herself. Try to figure out what she did wrong. Maybe I'll let her down easy. Say I need to find myself or something. She'll probably even help me pack. They all laughed. A family joke at my expense. I quietly opened and closed the bathroom door, flushed the toilet I hadn't used, ran the water. My hands were steady as I walked back to the table, smiled at their faces, complimented Lorraine's dry chicken. I even laughed at Dennis's stupid joke about millennials. Inside, I was screaming. The drive home was torture. Fabian held my hand, sang along to the radio, talked about maybe visiting my parents next weekend. Your dad mentioned teaching me about his investment portfolio, he said excitedly. How cool is that? Very cool, I managed. My voice somehow normal despite the recording burning like a coal in my purse. I didn't sleep that night. While Fabian snored beside me, I listened to the recording 6 times. Each replay hurt less and revealed more. The casual cruelty of it. The calculation. The way they talked about me like I was a business opportunity, not a person. By sunrise, I knew what I had to do. I called in sick to work and drove to my parents' house. They were having breakfast on the patio, Dad reading his iPad, Mom working on a crossword. They looked so peaceful, so unaware that their daughter's life was imploding. I set my phone on the table between them. I need you to listen to something. Mom reached for me when Fabian's voice started talking about their money, but Dad held up his hand. His face went through stages, confusion, disbelief, then a cold fury I'd only seen once before, when someone had tried to scam my grandmother. Mom started crying when Fabian called me boring but manageable. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, she whispered. We pushed you toward him. You thought he loved me, I finished. So did I. Dad hadn't spoken yet. He was still staring at my phone like it might provide different information if he looked hard enough. Finally, he set down his coffee cup with deliberate precision. What do you need? I need him out, I said, but I don't know how. He's on the lease, he gets mail there, he could claim tenant rights. And if I confront him with this, he'll just deny it or turn it around somehow. Dad nodded slowly. Give me 24 hours. I didn't know what Dad did in those 24 hours. But when I got home from my parents' house the next evening, Fabian was pacing our living room with his phone pressed to his ear. What do you mean the position's been filled, he was saying. Yesterday you said I was the top candidate. He hung up and immediately started dialing another number. Hi, this is Fabian Martinez. I'm calling about my lease renewal. What do you mean I've been removed from the lease? I slipped into the bedroom and texted Dad. What did you do? Nothing illegal, he replied. Just made some calls. Turns out people don't want to hire or house someone who brags about gold digging. Funny how word travels in this town. Fabian burst into the bedroom. Did you know about this? The management company says only your name is on the lease now. That can't be legal. Actually, it is, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. You never officially signed the lease renewal last month, remember? You kept saying you'd do it later. The management company called me today about it, and I told them you'd moved out. His face went through a series of expressions, confusion, anger, then a calculating look I now recognized. Baby, what's going on? Did someone say something to you? You know how people get jealous of what we have. What we have. I pulled out my phone. You mean how I'm convenient and my dad's money keeps you comfortable? The color drained from his face as his own voice filled the room. He lunged for my phone, but I'd already backed it up to 3 different clouds and sent copies to my parents. That's taken out of context, he stammered. I was just telling them what they wanted to hear. You know how my family is. Toxic? I suggested, calculating. Treating relationships like business transactions? His whole demeanor changed. The mask didn't just slip. It fell off entirely. You recorded me without my consent. That's illegal. I could sue you. In this state, only one party needs to consent to recording, and that was me, I said. Thank God for my lawyer friend who'd answered my panic text at midnight. You have 48 hours to get your stuff and get out. You can't just kick me out, I have rights. You have 48 hours, I repeated. Or the recording goes to every single person you've been networking with through my father. Every company you've applied to. Every connection you've made. Your choice. Fabian tried everything over the next 2 days. He cycled through anger, tears, threats, and desperate attempts at seduction. He brought me peonies, my favorite flowers he'd supposedly remembered. He cooked elaborate meals I didn't eat. He wrote me a letter swearing it was all a misunderstanding, that his family had pressured him to say those things, that I was the love of his life. Please, Isla, he begged on the second morning. I know I messed up. I let my family get in my head, but what we have is real. You know it is. What we have, I said, throwing his own words back at him, is convenient for you, but it's no longer convenient for me. My dad arrived that afternoon with a moving truck and 3 of his largest golf buddies. They didn't say a word to Fabian, just started efficiently packing his things. Fabian tried to engage them, tried to explain, tried to get them on his side. They remained silent, steady, and imposing. This is insane, Fabian shouted at one point. You're all acting like I'm some kind of criminal. I loved your daughter. Dad finally spoke, his voice dangerously quiet. You lived off my daughter. You disrespected my daughter. You plotted to use my family for your gain. The only reason you're walking out of here instead of being carried out is because Isla asked me to let you leave with dignity. Dignity you don't deserve. Fabian's face went red. You think you're so high and mighty with your money? You think you can just buy people off? Make problems disappear? I could destroy your reputation. I know things. No, Dad said simply, you don't. Because while you were busy calculating how to use us, we were just being a family. There's nothing to know except that we loved you like a son, and you saw us as ATMs. When the last box was loaded, Fabian turned to me one more time. You're making a huge mistake. No one will ever love you like I do. God, I hope not, I replied, and shut the door in his face. The silence after he left was supposed to be peaceful. Instead, it was the eye of a storm. The text started within hours. First apologetic, then angry, then threatening, then back to apologetic. A toxic cycle playing out in blue and gray bubbles on my screen. I blocked his number. He got a new one. I blocked that too. He got another. Then he started on my friends. Sarah called me, confused. Fabian just sent me this long message about how you're having a mental breakdown. He says he's worried about you, that you've been acting erratic. My coworkers got similar messages. He was painting me as unstable, himself as the concerned ex trying to help. He even contacted my boss, suggesting maybe I needed some time off to deal with my emotional issues. Fortunately, my boss remembered Fabian's sugar mama comment and wasn't buying it. His family got involved too. Lorraine started calling my mom, woman to woman, mother to mother. Boys say stupid things sometimes, she pleaded. Surely this can be worked out without destroying his future. Chloe took a different approach, messaging me on Instagram. You know recording people without consent is illegal, right? My brother could press charges. Maybe you should think about that before you ruin his life over some misunderstood jokes. Then came the gift basket. I was working from home when the buzzer rang. Through the intercom, Lorraine's voice was sweet as poison. Isla, dear, I have something for you. Just let me up for a moment. I don't know why I let her in. Maybe some part of me still believed in civility, in hearing people out. She stood in my doorway with an expensive gift basket, wine, chocolates, bath bombs, a peace offering worth probably $200. This is all such a misunderstanding, she said, not waiting to be invited in. She walked to my couch like she owned the place. Families say things, you know. We were just worried about Fabian. He seemed so stressed lately, trying so hard to impress you and your family. By lying about his intentions, her smile flickered. By trying to fit into a world that wasn't naturally his. Can you imagine the pressure he felt? Dating someone whose father could buy and sell his entire family? He pursued me, I reminded her. I didn't drag him into my world. He inserted himself into it with lies. Lies is such a strong word. Lorraine examined her manicure. He was trying to protect his pride. Surely you can understand that. A man needs his pride, and a woman needs honesty. Her friendly mask finally dropped. You have no idea what you've done. The connections Fabian was making through your father, those weren't just for him. Our whole family was benefiting. Dennis was going to approach your father about a business opportunity. Chloe was hoping to intern at his company. You've destroyed all of that over some silly dinner conversation. You mean the conversation where you all laughed about me being boring but manageable? She stood up abruptly. That recording might not be as legal as you think. I'd be very careful about who you share it with. Defamation, invasion of privacy, these are serious charges. Fabian's consulting with a lawyer. Good for him, I said, opening my door. He'll need one if he doesn't stop harassing me and everyone I know. She paused at the doorway. You're going to regret this, Isla. Fabian loved you in his way. That's more than most people get. After she left, I called my dad's lawyer. Then I installed new locks, even though I'd already changed them once. Then I threw up, the stress finally hitting my body like a physical force. 3 days later, Fabian broke in. I woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of my balcony door sliding open. I lived on the 3rd floor. Somehow, he'd climbed up. I locked myself in the bathroom and called 911, whispering into the phone while Fabian called my name, his voice slurring. He was drunk, stumbling through my apartment, knocking things over. Isla, please, he kept saying. Just talk to me. Just give me 5 minutes. I love you. You know I love you. The police arrived as he was trying to jimmy the bathroom lock with a credit card. They arrested him for breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and attempted assault. I watched from my window as they put him in the police car, his face a mask of rage in the flashing lights. The restraining order should have been the end of it. No contact. Staying 500 feet away from me, my home, my workplace. The judge also ordered him to stop contacting my friends, family, and colleagues. It was supposed to make me feel safe. Instead, Fabian escalated. The letters started arriving at my office, since he couldn't send them to my home. 12 pages of cramped handwriting oscillating between love and hate. You've ruined my life. I can't live without you. Your father destroyed my career. I'll make you pay. Please take me back. If I can't have you, no one can. Then came the vandalism. My car tires slashed in the office parking garage. Security footage showed someone in a hoodie, but couldn't prove it was him. Dead flowers left at my apartment building's entrance. Photos of us with my face scratched out slipped under my parents' door. Dad hired private security. Mom insisted I move back home temporarily, but I refused to let Fabian take my independence along with everything else. I installed cameras, carried pepper spray, varied my routes. I was living like a fugitive in my own life. The final straw came 2 weeks ago. I was leaving yoga when he appeared, violating the restraining order in broad daylight. But he wasn't alone, he had a woman with him. Pretty, young, hanging on his arm. Isla, he called out cheerfully, like we were old friends. I wanted you to meet Brittany. We're engaged. Can you believe it? I wanted to thank you for setting me free to find true love. Brittany smiled uncertainly, clearly uncomfortable. I wondered what lies he'd told her, what role she was playing in his twisted game. Congratulations, I managed, pulling out my phone to record. You're violating a restraining order right now. His face darkened. You're recording me again? God, you're pathetic. Brittany, this is my ex I told you about, the crazy one. But when the police arrived, they found more than just a restraining order violation. In his car, they discovered what he'd really come for. Rope, duct tape, a knife. The chance encounter had been planned. Brittany, it turned out, was an escort he'd hired to make me jealous, to get me to lower my guard. He's in jail now, awaiting trial. Charges include stalking, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and violating a restraining order. His family still sends messages through lawyers, claiming I've ruined an innocent man's life. My dad's lawyer sends cease and desist letters back. But here's the thing that haunts me. Fabian just made bail yesterday, and no one knows where he is. I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, listening to every creak, every car that passes. The security system is armed. Dad sleeps with a baseball bat by his bed now. Mom jumps every time the doorbell rings. The detective on my case says Fabian has to wear an ankle monitor, that they'll know if he comes near me. But I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. That someone who spent over a year pretending to love me, who climbed 3 stories to break into my apartment, who had kidnapping supplies in his car, isn't going to just accept defeat. His last letter, sent through his lawyer, contained just one line. This isn't over until I say it is. So I wait. I go to therapy. I try to rebuild my life. I wonder if I'll ever trust anyone again. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that rainy Tuesday in the bookstore cafe and wonder how someone who seemed so perfect could have been so perfectly evil all along. The worst part? Sometimes I still miss the person I thought he was. The person who never really existed. The person who was just a character in his con. They say time heals all wounds. But some wounds leave scars that ache every time it rains.